Chav Hav Hamrav. 41. Masnisin. Chasim Rotza Likra says Shema B'Layla Rishon L'Chasim. A person who is getting married, even though he doesn't have to read Shema the first night after he gets married, Koreh, if he wants to, he's allowed to. Not everybody wants to take the name of a pious person and read the Shema when he's exempt from doing so is allowed to do so. Tani, we learned Kol Davar Shu Shel Tsar. Now, this is a very basic Yerushalmi we're about to learn here, a very fundamental concept. A person who's not a Talmud Chacham should not act as if he is a Talmud Chacham. Except, says the Gemara, Kol Davar Shu Shel Tsar, anytime the issue involved causes the person anguish, then anybody wants to make himself an individual. In other words, he wants to make himself pious, allowed to do so, i.e., Talmud Chacham, a person wants to act like a Talmud Chacham, he's permitted to do so, v'tavo lo bracha, and he's blessed for it. Or if it's something which is hard to do, he's allowed to engage in that behavior. On the contrary, it's laudable for him to engage in that behavior. However, kol davar shu shel shevach, anytime it's something where he stands to gain praise for it, and there's no anguish involved. In other words, he's not afflicting himself, he's just going and acting as if he's a scholar, and there's no pain involved in doing so. For instance, maybe he dresses, with a long coat and a round hat, or maybe he does things like he goes and he's very makbid on wearing his talus over his head, or things like that, which are do not entail any of the negative difficulties of being a Talmud Chacham. If a person is makbid only on the things which are positive signs of being a person of prowess, he's not allowed to do so. Loka rota kol davar shu shevach, anything which is a praise for him. Loka rota lasos atzmo yachid. Not anybody wants to make himself into an individual's outstanding. Osa is permitted to do so. Talmid Chacham Osa, is he permitted to make himself into a Talmid Chacham? Ella, and here the Yerushalmi draws the distinction. Eli kein minu oso parnas al tzibur, unless he's a community leader. In other words, the Rav of a community is expected to act in a certain specific way. A person who is appointed to a position of leadership is expected to act in a specific way. Such a person can even take upon himself those things which are not painful or difficult, but even those things which are, so to speak, the accoutrements of the office, that he's allowed to do. Okay? Now we have a Meiser concerning this. Tani, we learned the Brisa. Mistalkin litzdadim. We learned that Mivnei Yisrael Drachim. When
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It says Talmud Chacham Osa, which implies that you can't. It's optional.
No. This is the way to read it. See, it's difficult. It's not easy to read. I tried to find alternate girsa, but I can't. So I'm going to tell you this is the way I believe it's supposed to be read. Not everybody wants to make himself into Yochid, or Talmid Chacham may do so. In other words, one of those roads, Osa, is really extraneous. It should be local road to Lasos Atzmo Yochid Talmid Chacham Osa, right? But it's I couldn't find anybody who takes out the second Osa, but that's really how to read it. If you read it the other way, which is to local road to Lasos Atzmo Yochid Osa, but a Talmid Chacham is Osa, then you just leads to all sorts of trouble. It doesn't work out in the sugya.
What's Osa?
Can't do so. So it says Martani, we learned to the Brisa. Mistalkin litzdadim, mibnei yiseidos adrachim. In the summer, when it's very difficult to walk because there are a lot of peaks and valleys in the road, because obviously the places where there were ruts in the winter have now dried and it's difficult to walk. So mistalkin, so you're allowed to walk mibnei yiseidos drachim. Because you're allowed to walk on the sides, even through people's fields. This we know is one of the takanos Yeshua made when he divided up Eretz Yisrael, that people should have the right to walk on the sides of the road when it's difficult to walk in the road. Now, there are many different ways of how to read this line. I'm going to read it the way I feel I understand the best. When in the middle of the winter, when it's really muddy, and it's very, very difficult to walk, you could even walk in a field which is full of saffron. And even though saffron is a very expensive spice, unless you're allowed to walk there, again, because this is the takana Yeshua made when he divided up Eretz Yisrael, that you're allowed to walk on the roadside in through the fields. Ravo said, Maisa Ran Gamliel Rabbi Shua. There was a Maisa Chamar Gamliel Rabbi Shua. Shuba Derech. They were walking down the road. They said, they're going to the side because of all the peaks and valleys, literally the spikes in the road. V'rose Rabbi Yehuda ben Papus. They saw in Papus Shayam Mishtakea Uvakanegdan that he was going up and down into the roadbed because it was very difficult to walk. But he was walking in the middle, on the road. Now they felt this was a sign of excessive piousness on his part. He was showing that he had a very high degree of piety, and therefore he was walking in the middle. He didn't want to take advantage of this condition which Yeshua made when they divided up Eretz Yisrael. So Amran Gamliel Rabbi Shua, mi huzeh shemar etzbo be'etzbar. Who's this person who's pointing himself out with a finger? In other words, he's showing that he is a pious and righteous individual. Amrullah, he said, no, this person, you should know. It's Yehuda ben Papusu. He's Yehuda ben Papus, shekol ma'asav l'shem shamayim. Everything he does for the sake of heaven. And therefore he's indeed a pious person. Says more, okay, Omar Lay, however, said Rabbi Yoshua back from Gamliel, for lo kintani, have we learned, kol davar shusho shevach, lo kol rotza lasos atzmo, kol tamid yochid oseh, tamid chochem oseh. Then we learn anything which is a praise to an individual. Not everybody wants to make himself into an outstanding person. Into Talmid Chacham is allowed to do so. Ellen Kemino so parents, even unless he's been appointed to be a leader of the congregation. And Yehuda ben Papus, he might be a nice guy, but he's not a leader. So Amarle, so Rabbi Gamliel retorted, for Atani, didn't we learn on the other hand, Kol Davar Shel Tsar, anytime it causes a person pain, Kol Rotza Lasos Atzmo Yochid, a person wants to make himself into an outstanding person, Osa is allowed to do so. Talmid Chacham Osa wants to make himself into a Talmid Chacham is allowed to do so. V'tova la bracha. And let him be blessed.
That's really the retort of Rabbi Yeshua.
Oh, Rabbi Yeshua and Gamliel, I'm sorry, I apologize. So Rabbi Yeshua says, yes, but here it's a Davar Shel Tsar. In other words, here it's causing himself anguish. He has to go up and down and up and down. So therefore, he's allowed to do so.
This may be extraneous, but this seems to be it's almost the personalities of Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Gamliel are almost reflected.
It's not extraneous, it's certainly germane. Yes, from Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, we're always getting into tips like this because Rabbi Gamliel was very, very elitist. And he was the leader. He was the Nasi. Rabbi Shua was much more of a Dalek Avschus. Yes,
okay, yes.
It certainly is true. Yes.
Well, this
Yehuda ben Papus.
He's not pointing himself out, saying, "Why don't you all do what I'm doing?"
Oh no! Look at the next line. Rabbi Zira said to justify Rabbi Gamliel, but as long as you don't embarrass others. In other words, it was an embarrassment to Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua here. Because when Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua were not walking on the road, they were walking on the side. That's where Rabbi Gamliel took umbrage. Rabbi Yeshua was defended the Yehuda ben Papus. But Rabbi Gamliel's point is, here we are walking on the sides through the fields. He's showing us up by walking in the middle. Okay, so that was a...
Was he flaunting it?
No.
The fact that he was doing
that's what Rabbi Yeshua's limud chus. That's what Rabbi Yeshua is saying. But Rabbi Zir is explaining what went on in Rabbi Gamliel's mind was he wasn't coming completely out of left field when he said this. Okay? Dilma, there was a Maisa with Rabbi Yasa. Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak, with Rabbi Yasa or Shmuel bar Yitzchak. By the way, Rabbi Yasa I saw today is the same person who in Talmud Bavli is called Rabbi Yasi. And you turn around the letters, and that's what it is. Yasa, Asi. So Rabbi Yasa, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak, have Yasvin. They were sitting, Achlin, and they were eating. B'chadim in Ilay Knishta Elisa, one of the upper rooms in the shul. Right? Knishta is the shul, Elisa means one of the upper rooms. Asas on Tzaditzoisa, the time came to David. V'kam Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak mitzluya. So Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yitzchak got up matzluya to David. So Rav Meisha said to him, "Hey, Lokain Alfon, Rebbe, didn't Rebbe teach us?" I know Rav Meisha got in here. He wasn't mentioned as one of the people sitting there, but I guess a bunch of people sitting there. Lokain Alfon, Rebbe, didn't Rebbe teach us? I'm not sure who Rebbe is. Maybe it's Rabbi Yasla himself. But didn't Rebbe teach us? Once you start eating, you don't have to stop eating in order to daven. You can finish your meal and then daven afterwards. So why are you getting up? Tani Chizkiah, didn't Chizkiah say? And then we learn name of Chizkiah. Call me shua, pater mi davar. Anybody who's exempt from something, voseu, and does it, nikro hedyot, is called an idiot. So therefore, why are you getting up in the middle of the meal and going to daven? Amar lei, so he said, no, I'm allowed to do so. For Tzinian, didn't we learn that chosin pater mi kriya shma, a chosin is pater from shma, but chosin imrotze. The chosin can also reach shma if he wants, right? So therefore, I want to go daven. Amar lei, so he said, wait. For Lord Ram Gamliel, Isra Gamliel said, if the chosin wants to, we can daven, and we don't paskin like Rabbi Gamliel. Amar lei, so responded, Rabbi Shmuel Yitzchak said, Yochilana pater Rabbi Gamliel. I can learn like Rabbi Gamliel. After all, Tanakama in our Mishnah, in which the Mishnah on top of the page, which is the Stam Mishnah, that could be Rabbi Gamliel as well. And it could be this Stam Mishnah is going like Rabbi Gamliel. Says Chasim Ratzal Likra Shema B'Laila Rishon Kore. So Stam Mishnah paskins like Rabbi Gamliel. I paskin like Rabbi Gamliel. So Gamliel Omer, as Gamliel says, Eini Shomei Lochem Levato Mimeni Malchus Shamayim. I'm not going to listen to you to not accept upon myself the yoke of heaven. In other words, to exempt myself from Shema. So too here he said, I'm not going to listen to exempt myself from the Tefillah B'Tzibur. Now my assumption is that of course they would have davened later on. That's simple. The Shaila was probably to daven now with the tzibur or daven later be yechidus. So one is not going to strict letter of the law required to interrupt one's meal to go daven with tzibur. Yet nonetheless, he felt he wanted to in order to fulfill this concept of being makabo malchus shamayim.
Now here Rav Gamliel seemed to be saying the opposite of what I said before.
No, well, why? Rav Gamliel, you mean because
here he said you can't?
Yeah, Rav Gamliel said about himself. He said, "Ani eni shomei lochem levato meni o malchus shamayim afilu shachas."
So he's not showing up anyone else.
Well, he's a Nasi. Wait. Bear in mind also, Rav Gamliel is the Parnas Hador. So as the Parnas Hador, he's entitled to do so anyway, right?
That mean the president?
The leader, the Nasi. Yeah.
Where does Lifnim Mishur Sadin come in? We said Misha also.
You see, Lifnim Mishur Sadin generally means in Cheshem Mishpat, in spending money, not in personal conduct. In other words, you do that which the halacha requires you to do in terms of Cheshem Mishpat. You go beyond the letter of the law. It's like Vasisa Yashav Atov.
Well, exactly. On the pasuk of Vasisa Yashav Atov, I think the Ramban talks about that everybody's obligated to go one step further, Lifnim Mishur Sadin. But that's not applied. It applies by all aspects.
But even if that's the case, it would still be, again, when we find a shot, generally applies to Choshen Mishpat. But even if it doesn't, it's generally speaking about in a place where it's not public. In other words, here it's talking about public display of pious behavior. Another example is the example which we had a few blot ago, where he spoke about wearing tefillin all day. Where he said people who want to wear tefillin all day need a guf naki. And we said, according to Yerushalmi, means if you wanted to engage in that kind of pious behavior, you have to be clean of all types of sinful or potentially negative behavior. So we see here a concept that although private perhaps Lifnei Mishra Sadin is of course well regarded, but in public you have to be very careful what you do. Unless you're a Parnas al Tzibur, you're not supposed to behave. Borders on haughtiness. That's really what the problem is. Okay, let's start the new parak. Second parak in Brachos finished. Third parak. Misha Meisel Mutal Lefonav. If somebody Rachmana Litzlan has a dead body before him, his own dead body. It's out in the bottom. There's one more line on this page. Tricky, isn't it? There's one more line on page Chafal from it out. Misha Mesa Mutalafanav, if somebody's mesas before him. Patim Kriya Shema is exempt from Shema and Matfilin. He's an onen, right? As long as the dead person is not buried, he's an onen and he's exempt from all mitzvahs, as we'll see in the Gemara. Matfilin doesn't have to wear tefillin. No Samita V'chilufayim. The pallbearers and those who are going to take over from the pallbearers. Chlufi, those who are going to take over from those who take over from the pallbearers. Eshalifnei amita, those who are before the bed. Veshalach amita, those which are behind the bed. makes no difference. Those are required in order to bear the bed, meaning the stretcher upon which is the dead body. So Paturim, they're exempt from Shema. Those who are not required in order to bear the dead body, Chayovin, they are mandated to read the Shema. Both sets are exempt from davening. Okay? Even those who are not directly required for the excuse me, they're not the direct backups. They're just kind of like waiting in the wings if necessary. So even those are parted from tefillah. Why? Because tefillah is the Rabbanan. So Rabbanan were more lenient. Kriya Shema is the Raisa. The rabbis were more machir when it came to Shema. Karvus HaMeis, once they buried the dead body, the Chazu, when they returned from the cemetery, if they have enough time to begin Shema and finish it before they reach the lineup, Yaschilu, they should start it. If there's not enough time, Lo Yaschilu. Now, what was the lineup? The lineup was, we do a little bit like this nowadays. I don't know if they do it in America, but in Israel they do it. You make two lines. I think we do it here too. You make two lines in the cemetery, and the Veilim pass through and say Amokim Yinachim. But it used to be a much bigger deal. It used to be like a real receiving line, not just they would rush through. So in the old days, when you were standing shiur, of course, you were parted from Shema. So those who would stand in the shiur, if you didn't have enough time after the burial to get to the shura and say Shema, so you still were exempt from Shema. When you're standing in the shura, those who are standing on the inside of the lineup, where they come into direct contact from the Ovel, they're exempt from reading Shema. However, those who are standing in the outer rows in the lineup, chayavim, because they're not going to personally console the Ovel anyway. Noshim v'avodim uktanim, women, slaves, and children, P'turim Kriya Shema, they don't have to say Shema. Minat Tefillin, they don't have to put on Tefillin. V'chayavim b'tefillah, they have to daven. Women are mechuyev in Tefillah. It's a common misconception that women don't have to daven. Mezuzah, and they also have to mezuzahs on their houses. Ubirkas Amos, they also have to bench. Balkari, a person who had an admission or had relations with his wife the night before, and hasn't yet gone to the mikvah, Mahara Belivo, he only thinks Shema in his heart, and he does not make blessings before and after it. We don't pass like this anymore. The Gemara will discuss that. But at the time of the mission, they still required mikvah after one had an admission before doing anything which had to do with kedusha.
It doesn't apply anymore.
No, now we don't apply it, right? But it used to. Says the Gemara, Balkem, higher believer can only think the Shema Nasar, Ve'enim can't make a blessing, Lo Fanev Lo Achrea, not before nor after. Va'amosam Mevarech Lachra, V'leinim Mevarech Lefarav. About carry, he can benching, but he doesn't make the bracha beforehand. Okay, and the Gemara was going to discuss all this. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda is always more lenient in case of a Ba'akari. Somebody who had an admission says you make a bracha both before and after. If you're in the middle of davening, if it is crucial Ba'akari, you remembered, whoops, you had an admission last night, Lo Yavsik, you shouldn't stop in the middle of the Katser, you should daven quick, abbreviate your davening, but finish up. So Yorah Litvo, if let's say you went down to the mikveh, okay, you went down to the mikveh and im yochol lalos liskasos, if he can come up and cover himself, velikros, and read fully clothed, achlo tonitzachem before sunrise, and then daven kivosikin at sunrise, yalev yiskasav yikra. He should come up and clothe himself and say Shema. And if not, Yiskasav b'mayim. So water in the old days was not clear. Nowadays we have clear water, then water was muddy. So therefore you could stand in the water and it would cover your nether half, the bottom, and you could then read Shema while your head is poking above the water. That would be permitted. However, lo yiskasi, you shouldn't cover yourself. Lo b'mayim roim, I should make something. I want to backtrack on something. Here, obviously, this Mishnah holds like the opinion which we had in the first parak, that one should preferably read Shema before sunrise. We hold that one could even read after sunrise for the first 3 hours. But we had an opinion in the first Mishnah, in the first parak of the Rama Paskins this way, that l'chatchila one reads Shema before sunrise. After Shema, after sunrise, it's only b'di'evet. So therefore, according to the Rambam, this Mishnah is very realistic, right? If it's before sunrise, a few moments before sunrise, so we prefer that you say Shema still in the mikveh. So therefore, you only cover half of your body, the bottom half, and that's considered to be an interruption, and then you can read the Shema even while you're still in the water. However, lo yiskaseh, you shouldn't cover yourself lo b'mayim meroim. You're allowed to go to the mikveh in brackish water, but it's not a nice place to say Shema. So therefore, in the covering yourself, you shouldn't do it lo b'mayim meroim, not in bad waters. Lo b'mayim mishra, not in waters which they've soaked flax. I guess it's disgusting water. Until you pour water, new, clean water, into these waters. When you want to read Shema, how far do you have to distance yourself from these brackish waters and from excrement? 4 amos. Remember, we said in the first pair, this is true even if you're on the seashore and there's this vile mud. You have to distance yourself from it 4 amos. Zav Shira Keri, a person who had a zav, who had an emission, a woman who's a nida who also had an emission, or a woman who had relations and now she saw blood. So all these cases are not clear. It seems like in all these cases we have a double whammy. But maybe the Gemara will address that. I don't know. We'll see. They have to go to the mikveh before they read Shema. For Rabbi Yehuda Potz, Rabbi Yehuda says all these people can read Shema even though they haven't gone to the mikveh. Okay. Says the one, now let's talk again about Aninus. Tani we learned Uminat Tefillin. It says in our Mishnah, will you raise your hand?
Yeah, I just want to ask one question.
You may. Go ahead.
Okay, with the mikveh,
yeah.
It doesn't have the same role now as it did then. Doesn't mean...
See, we basically abolished the need of mikveh for men.
Yeah.
But in the Gemara, in Brachos, it's a very real issue because they only abolished it very late in the Tanaic period. So therefore, until that time, men had to go to the mikveh whenever they had emissions, not just women. Because people weren't able to do it. It was just not feasible. It wasn't real for pragmatic reasons. Just wasn't. They weren't capable of keeping it.
Even when they had missions with their wife, they would have to go?
Yeah, no, of course. Even relations with their wife.
This is all midrabanan anyway, right?
It's all midrabanan, yes. Midoraisa is no. What midoraisa? Yeah, there's a source for truma. If a Baal Keri wants to eat truma and go to the base of mikveh, she has to go to the mikveh first. Yeah, but not for brachos and all that. No.
For any person to go to Beit Mikdash or just the...
What's now with a man has like an accident in his sleep or whatever?
No, so that we hold you don't have to nowadays, but there are people who are very makbid on it. It's not as if people, that's why the Hasidim go to the mikveh every day. Among other reasons, there is because of the Tfilas Ezra. That's what Ezra was the one who originally made this takana, and it's not something which is completely abolished. Just the Gemara says you don't have to be makbid on it, but there are still people who are makbid on it. Okay? The idea is anytime you have an emission or you have relations with your wife, before you go the next time to daven or to learn, you go to the mikveh. So that means that's why the Hasidim go to the mikveh, or not just Hasidim, but also some time. No. This is only if they don't have time. They're running out of time. If they're Hasidim and they wake up late, then they might have to read Shema in the mikveh. But we don't do that. Yeah, you have to read dress. Well, you can cover your bottom half with the water is clear. Yeah. What? Oh, yeah. And this is important to point out. These were some brazen about point. In our mikvahs, you can't say Shema because our mikvahs are not considered to be like bathhouses. Because a lot of people walking around naked. They're made to walk around naked. In the old days, they used to go to the mikvah. They didn't have designated mikvahs. They used to travel in rivers and in lakes and in springs and all that. So therefore, they weren't considered to be like bathhouses. So therefore, you could cover your bottom half with the water and say Shema as long as your top half was exposed and your bottom half was not. But nowadays, you cannot say any davar shebekdusha in a mikvah. It's considered to be like a bathhouse. Doesn't matter. It's still like a bathroom. You're not supposed to say it even in the bathroom. Okay?
Yeah. So
The River Jordan is a good example, a place where one could cover, as one is coming up, one's bottom half is covered, and one could say Shema. Bathing suit is okay, but not in our mikvos. In the swimming pool, yes. In the river, it'd be okay, yes. Okay. The swimming pool is not a valid mikvah, generally speaking. Right.
The most machmir opinion today is that we should, anytime we have a mission, whether it's with your wife.
Yes. That's the most machmir opinion. That's right.
But Lake Michigan's a mikvah?
Lake Michigan is a mikvah. Yeah. Lake Michigan is a valid mikvah.
Chicago River.
Not Chicago River because it's flowing. It has to be, if it's rainwater, it has to be stationary, not flowing. But Lake Michigan is a valid mikvah. Okay. Says Martani, not tefillin. We learned cesspools are valid mikvahs too. All right, we have to get a move on. Tani, we learned to be not tefillin. A person who has not yet buried his dead, he has to put on tefillin. He's exempt from tefillin. Avil b'yom rishon, the Gemara says, now we have machlokas about this. And Avil on the first day after his, in other words, before the mace is buried, ain't no nice and tefillin, he doesn't put on tefillin. But Yom Sheni, the second day, nice and tefillin does put on tefillin. In Bo Panim Chadosh is fascinating halacha. In Bo Panim Chadoshos, if new people come to be Menachemim who haven't seen him before, so then Uchotz on Kol Shiva, he takes it off in their presence. We don't pass this way, the Gemara is going to say that. But it's an interesting halacha. Halacha Panim Chadoshos by Avelos. If new people come, so as a sign of Avelos before them, you have to remove tefillin in your presence. You can't put on tefillin in front of them. Okay? For new people who are coming who have not seen you yet in this Avelos period. Okay?
Even though he's showing other signs of Avelos.
That's right. Morning. Right. Even though he's showing other signs, this is an additional sign which he has to show. Div Rabbi Lezer, it's Rabbi Lezer's opinion, Rabbi Shomer, but Rishaynu Vasheni, on the first and second day of the Avelos, ain't no tefillin. On either of the first 2 days, you can't put on tefillin. But Yom HaShlishi, on the third day, you know tefillin. On the third day, it's already allowed to put on tefillin. However, Rabbi Yeshua Paskins, in Bo Panim Chadoshos, if new people arrive, ain't no chotz. You don't have to take it off for them. Because you have, as you say, you have other behaviors of Avelos. You don't have to take it for tefillin.
So Rabbi Yeshua was talking about a period of Avelos, not just being an oneg.
No, he goes beyond it. That's correct. All 7 days, right.
So on the third day, you don't have to take it off.
Well, let's see how we develop it. Even says the Gemara, so says the Gemara, if on the second day, according to Rabbi Yoshua, he doesn't put on tefillin, Tzurcha Meimar, do you have to tell me Misha Meisel Mutal Farav? In other words, what does the Mishnah do with our Mishnah? Why does the Mishnah just say Misha Meisel Mutal Farav, which is the first day before the mace is buried? It's obvious, even on the second day after the mace is buried, you don't put on tefillin. Isn't it partial on the first day you don't put on tefillin? Says Mar, no. You're right. We don't have to say it. Misha Meisel, we don't have to say Misha Meisel Mutal Farav. I'll begin the Tanador. Once he said the second day, so also mentioned the first day. In other words, Rabbi Lezer will say in our Mishnah that we mentioned this, but they're both included. In other words, we mentioned it's the second day and also the first day, right? So it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit rocky how you do it, but yeah, we mentioned both. Excuse me? Lozu Apsu, maybe something like that. In other words, not only this, but even no, the other way. Zuv ain't tzarich l'mar zu, right? So which one is it? That's the question. They don't have to Lozu Apsu.
It's only the first day.
No, not according to Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua says also the second day. Let me just check what the Bnei Moshe says. Well, you're entitled not to like it, but it is Rabbi Yeshua.
Yeah.
Okay?
So is that what we pass? No. I can't believe
No, okay, so I'm misinterpreting it. No, we don't pass that way. So I misinterpreted it. The Bnei Moshe says, El begin the Tanador, that's going on Kriya Shema. Kriya Shema is Taka only the first day. Kriya Shema only part the first day, even according to Rabbi Yeshua. That's why the Mishnah says Misha Meitzel Mutal Fanav. Why doesn't it mention the second day? If the second day also part of Benfil, let it say the first day and second day, because the Mishnah is also talking about Kriya Shema. And Kriya Shema only parted from the first day. So that's why the Mishnah said, begin the Tanadah, since it's all about Shema, Tanadah, so it said Tefillin is also only 1 day, but according to Rabbi Yeshua, Tefillin is really 2 days, even though Shema is only 1 day. Okay, what are we pasking? Rabbi Zira and Rabbi Yirmiyah B'Shem Rab, both the name of Rab, Halacha Rabbi Lezer ben Nesina. Halacha Rabbi Lezer that we only don't put on tefillin the first day. Rabbi Shua b'chalitza v'lo Rabbi Shua that we do not take off the tefillin on any of the other days. And this is, of course, our current custom that you put on you don't put on tefillin the first day. Okay, however, subsequently on the next 6 days you do put on tefillin. And when do I say that you? What do I say about removing? That you don't remove the tefillin even if panim chadoshos come. Rabbi Zira asked the shaila. Nasa b'yom hasheni Rabbi Lezer. He puts that tefillin on the second day like Rabbi Lezer. Maush yasa Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yoshua. What about on that day? Would Rabbi Lezer hold like Rabbi Yoshua shlo lachlos not to take it off? Now, he's asking a very cute, very interesting question. Pnei Moshe makes it clear. It says, okay, fine. You want to paskin like Rabbi Lezer, you only exempt the first day. You want to paskin like Rabbi Yeshua that you don't put on tefillin, that you don't take off the tefillin on any of the other subsequent days. But what about the second day? The second day, when somebody comes to visit you, you should take him off no matter what. Mimanav shach, as we say. Because if, like Rabbi Lezer, you take him off because you're cholet tefillin all 7 days if somebody new comes. And like Rabbi Yoshua, you should be taking them off, not because Rabbi Yoshua holds you do chalitza, no, he holds you not cholet. But he holds on the second day, there's no chiyuv of tefillin anyway. So on the second day, catch 22, no matter which way you look at it, he should take off the tefillin when somebody new comes. Because either these parts are all together, like Rabbi Yoshua says, or even like Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer holds, at least you should take them off when people come. So I understand the rest of the days. I could say that I paskin on the third day. Like Rabbi Eliezer, straight. That, like I paskin Rabbi Eliezer, he's mechuyev in tefillin, and I don't buy, and I paskin, I'm sure he doesn't take them off. And that day, okay, I understand. You don't take off tefillin, and you wear them when somebody new comes. But on the second day, even if paskin Rabbi Yeshua not to take them off normally, but Rabbi Yeshua holds on the second day you don't wear tefillin altogether. So on that day, how can you wear tefillin when somebody new comes? You should be mechuyev, no matter who you paskin like, to take care of your tefillin.
Are these the only two opinions?
These are only two opinions, yes.
Last week when we studied
somebody comes to take it off.
What?
You don't take it off.
Last week you said something. There was another thing about the third day.
We're going to get to this later.
But what I'm saying is I asked the same question last week. Does the third day mean something special? It's always there.
The third day diminishes the Avelus. The third day of Avelus always diminishes the Avelus.
But I'm saying that's on this, but on the third day of other things.
No,
because you mentioned last week something the third day. So then I said, does that have anything to do with
it's possible. I don't remember. Generally speaking, the third day of something changes its status. But we have.
Do we know why the third day?
It's already the third day. It's already accustomed. It's like a chazaka. There's such a thing. Okay, says Gemara. I'm Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Boon. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Boon said, "Vikini, this is the halacha. Nasan b'yom hasheni. If you put on tefillin the second day, ki Rabbi Eliezer, like Rabbi Eliezer, nasa Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, shlo lachlot." We say Rabbi Eliezer now becomes like Rabbi Yoshua, shlo lachlot. So when we paskin halacha like both, l'chumra, that you put on tefillin on the second day, and you don't take it off, right? Our understanding is that we made Rabbi Eliezer in to Rabbi Yoshua, that now on the second day, you don't take off the tefillin once you put it on. Vin Kani, and if that's the case, name halacha Rabbi Eliezer. So let's say halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. Now, this line, Vin Kani, name halacha Rabbi Eliezer, is a very difficult line. And all of the Mefarshim have very great difficulty with it. What to do with it, the Gra changes the whole gears in the Gemara here. It's not clear what the line means. Literally, I'll tell you the line for you. Literally means, if that's the case, let's say Allah is like Rabbi Eliezer. But that can't be the meaning of the line. Because we're not pasking like Rabbi Eliezer straight. But pasking Allah like Rabbi Eliezer straight would mean that we pasking that you do take off tefillin. All the other days the panim chadashos come. So the line can't be read the way it's written here in the Yerushalmi literally. It can't be read literally. So therefore, the best scenario, the best interpretation I have is the interpretation, the Girsa which is given by the Gra and others, which is in Kani, name Allah cry blessing, they tack on the word Binasina. Let's say that Allah is like Rabbi Lazar Binasina, and that's it. In other words, well, if we say Allah is Rabbi Lazar by Nasina, we'll know already that we put on tefillin like Rabbi Lezer, and we'll be able to deduce that we don't take it off, unlike Rabbi Yeshua. But that also is missing something. Because so what? So the Gemara is telling us that Allah is also like Rabbi Yeshua by Chalitza. I really don't have a good shot in this. I don't know. Let's see the Pnei Moshe. Maybe it'll help. I don't remember exactly what he says. Let's see the last Pnei Moshe here. V'in Kani, if that's the case, name will look Rabbi Lezer. Klomar, in other words, the Mitameh Hashas. The Gemara is asking the question. If on the second day you don't, even on the second day you don't remove them, why is it necessary to say halok Rabbi Shua b'chalitza? Shorei Rabbi Shua gufei, according to Rabbi Shua himself, mishlishi ve'elchu dekamar. Rabbi Shua himself is only saying you take it off from the third day. And if you're going to say that we don't, even on the second day, don't take it off, so therefore only say lo like Rabbi Lezer by the Sina. And then we understand that only by the Sina halach is like him, but not by removal, and even on the second day you don't take them off. All right, that's basically Pnei Moshe is telling you, like I said. But again, I don't understand what we lose by saying hello, Sir Rabbi Yeshua by Chalitza. But again, as I say, this line is difficult to understand, and we'll best admit that we don't understand it than try and distort it. Let's give out Chav Beis Amud Aleph now.
Since he's going from one page to another, it's possible that
a line got. But this is only the Vilna Shas that goes from one page to another, so they're not standardized. No, the Shas are not standardized. You should have Chav Beis Amud Aleph right now, okay? Everybody has Chav Beis Amud Aleph? Says Rabbi, you don't have it? The Gra, by the way, I will tell you one. The Gra takes out the whole line here. Mora says, Gra says, Rabbi Yossi Brabun, V'in Kini name Yalocha Rabbi Lezer. He takes out the whole line before that. It just says, Rabbi Yossi Brabun, and then goes straight to V'in Kini name Yalocha Rabbi Lezer. I had another way of thinking about this afternoon, which is to say that it's not a question, but it's rather just a statement. The in normally means in kain. It should mean v'im kain, but maybe it's read v'im kain. If that's the case, nema. That's why we said halachas Rabbi Lezer, but again only b'nesina, and not completely like Rabbi Lezer. But I think I'm just confusing you more because I'm confused, so it's better just to go on.
There are different manuscripts. I mean,
yes.
Yerushalmi.
Oh, gazillion manuscripts. Gazillion
there's some that would are saying that the Gra is going like a particular manuscript that was aware of. Or
the Gra amended stuff on his own.
Okay.
See, in Bavli we don't do that. What's fascinating about Yerushalmi is in Bavli we never make emendations on our own. Almost never. The Bach did emendations. Change the text. The Bach did, the Marshal did a little bit, but generally we shy away from it. But Yerushalmi, it's like, open season. Everybody plays games with the Yerushalmi because they're so obviously messed up that people do it do all the time.
Occasionally find manuscripts that agree with
No, there are no manuscripts anymore.
Okay.
All the manuscripts which we have, and they're almost none. Now, the original publishers of Yerushalmi, the Sansino edition, claimed they had 4 manuscripts. But we never found their manuscripts. And we really have very little to go on.
Sansino in Italy.
Sansino in Italy. The real, not Sansino in English, the real Sansino. Yeah, not like the Sansino in English. Okay, Rabbi Bon. Rabbi Bon said, a very, very fascinating drasha. It says you should recall the day in which you left Egypt, all the days of your life. Yomim shat osik ben b'chaim, the days in which you're involved in living. V'lo yomim shat osik ben b'mesim, not days in which you're involved in death. That's why he says people are involved with Mesim are part from Kriya Shema. Because they're not Yemei Chayecha. They're Yemei Mesim. Tani, we learned, so a person wants to be stranger with himself, ain't Shomim Lo. In other words, a person who's a shomer on a mace, and he wants to say Shema, he's not permitted to do so. So now the Gemara asks, why not? Lama. Mivnei K'vod Shmeis is because the dignity of the dead person. In other words, it's not dignity for the dead person to leave him and go say Shema. Or Mishum Shein Lo Mishir Samaso, is it because there's nobody to bear the body? In other words, they're carrying it, transporting from place to place. If he goes to read Shema, there might not be enough pallbearers. Says more, Ma Nafik Min Benein. What's the nafkimina? What's the difference between the two opinions? If there's somebody else who could take his place as a pallbearer, if you're going to say it's because of the dignity of the dead body, also, regardless, you're not allowed to leave the dead body and go say Shema. If you're going to say because you don't have another pallbearer, so this guy will substitute for a while, and that'll be so you can take the substitute for a few minutes instead.
Can't you just say it in front of the
No, you can't say in front of the mace because the mace can't do the mitzvah. Right. It says the Gemara in this respect, Vatani, didn't we learn, Pater Mitilas Lulav, if you're watching a mace, you're Pater from the Lulav. Now, so the Gemara says, you don't have to wear to shake Lulav.
But when is the mace a mace only when it's completely dead, or is a mace...
No, only when it's dead, stone dead.
I mean, not breathing on machines.
Nothing. Dead. So it says the Gemara, the Gemara understood, when are you taking Lulav? It must be taking the Lulav on first day Yontif of Sukkot. On first day Yontif of Sukkot, you can't carry the mace anyway. The mace is muktzah on Yontif. So if that's the case, if you're exempt from Lulav on Yontif, because you're in the presence of a mace, it must be not because of the pallbearer issue, but because of the dignity of the dead body. You can't do mitzvahs in front of him, or go away and do mitzvahs. Says more, no, not necessarily. Maybe it's talking about Chol HaMoed. And a Chol HaMoed, you could be bearing the dead body, and maybe the reason why exempt from Lulav is because you'd be bearing the dead body instead. Says the right, you have to wear tzitzis and pants for that reason. Says body, right? So Islach Lemeibar B'chol Lo B'Yontif. Can you say it's talking about weekday and not a Yontif? So therefore, clearly, it must be that you're Potter from Kiyoshover because of the dignity of the dead body. Says more, no. It could be even on Yontif. It's not because of the dignity of the dead body, but rather because of the needs of the dead body. You can't carry him on Yontif. Yes, but you can go bring him a coffin and shrouds. Like that which it says over there in Masechta Shabbos, that even on Shabbos and Yontif, you can make preparations. You can walk out 2,000 amas to the edge of the Tchum Shabbos, to make sure that right after Shabbos or Yontif, you're ready to involve yourself in the details of a marriage, or in the details of a death, lohavi lo, to bring for the dead body, aron, a coffin, tachrichin, and shrouds, chalilim, flutes, and mukonos, and women to lament, kamishu nosim aso. So that's the case. Even on Shabbos Yontif, we have a scenario in which it's like you're bearing the burden of the dead body, which is that you have to involve yourself in preparations for the funeral. So that's why maybe you're part from Shema, not because of the dignity of the mace. So leave it up in the air. No, you walk to the place where right after Shabbos you can make the preparations. Okay, Me'emas HaKovin doesn't mean this. So this is something which we don't do nowadays. In the old days, they used to turn over the beds in the house of an Ovel. They used to turn over the beds in order that you used to sleep on the back of the beds. Surely isn't relevant to our beds. In the old days, beds were turnoverable, but nowadays they're not. So when do they do it? Mishiyotza Mesi Pesach Chotzer. Dear Rebbe Lezer, once the mace has left the opening of the courtyard of that house, according to Rebbe Lezer. Rabbi Shulman Mishiyisasim ago once the grave is sealed. Ukshemesa Gamliel died. Shemi Sheyotza Mikev Sheyotza Pesach Chotzer. Once his body left the opening of the courtyard, Rabbi Lezer said to his students, Kofas Hamitos, turn the beds over. Kshenistam Agolel, when the grave was sealed, Rabbi Yeshua kafus amitas. Then Rabbi Yeshua said, turn over the beds. Lo, they said, too late. Kvar kafinu should be kvar kafinu. Ray, turn them over. Al pi zokim, based on the psak of Rabbi Lezer. Be'erev Shabbos uzokim amitas. On Erev Shabbos, you turn your bed upright. Motzei Shabbos ukov, you turn them upside down again, because there's no avelus on Shabbos. Tarnei, we learn dargosh. Dargosh is a type of bed which the Gemara is going to discuss on the base. These kefes veino nichbeis. You turn on its side, you don't turn it upside down. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, let me give you chabeis on the base. That's page 44. Right, today they have do sleep on beds, they don't sleep on the floor. Some people are machmir do sleep on the floor, but it's not required.
What's the reason they did that?
Take away the pillow, right? Like Tisha B'Av. What?
Why?
It's a sign of mourning. Says Hashem Elosomer, it's a sign of mourning. You don't sleep on your bed. Like I said, we don't have the same luxuries. Like you sit low. Same idea. Hashem Elosomer Shomet Kal Barnitim, a dargash was made with straps which held up the mattress. So the straps were placed into the rails along the sides of the bed. So you remove those straps so the mattress falls to the ground. Shomet Kal Barnitim Shlovadayo, that's sufficient. You don't have to turn it upside down. Rabbi Yoitza b'Shem Rabbi Shimon Levi said, I look at Shimon Lazi, you just loosen the straps. Rabbi Yaakov Barach b'Shem Rabbi Yossi said, Mito shenakliteh olin v'yordin. If you have a bed which has removable bed posts, removable legs, so olin v'yordin means they can be plugged and removed. You don't have to turn the bed upside down. You remove the legs. Shomton v'dayin, that's sufficient. Ezu mita v'ezu dargosh, wasn't it between a bed and a dargosh? Rabbi said, wherever the straps which hold the mattress go over the top of the wooden frame, zui mito. Anytime the straps which hold the mattress go through the wooden frame, zeu dargosh, that's the dargosh. Yes, miraculous bivot. And then we learn hamita, a bed, va'arsa, mishiyushufa mi oradag, when they consider to be complete and suitable to be makabel tuma. Because only completed vessels are become tameh when you polish them with fish skin. Because fish oil was the way they polished them in the old days. So it says, if by a bed you put the belts over the wood, why do you have to polish the wood? Nobody's going to see the wood. By a dargosh, I would understand why you polish the wood. Why? Because the wood is exposed. Because the cables go through the wood. But by a mita, why do you have to polish the wood? You don't see the cables anyway. Rabbi Lezer says, you know what? This Mishnah is talking about Tipoter. Explain that Mishnah is talking about Be'ilain Arsasa, by those by those Caesarean beds, these little covers which have holes. Alright, basically we have three types of beds. The dargash, which has the straps go through, the mito, which has the straps go above, and the arsa kisaraisa, where the straps go through as well. How we know that an Ovel has to turn his bed upside down? Says the Gemara, Rabbi Crispa, interesting Jewish name there. Rabbi Crispa, b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "V'yeshvu ito la'aretz." It said they would sat with him to the ground. Al-aretz cakes, because God does say they sat on the ground. V'yeshvu ito la'aretz, to the ground. Davar shu samuch la'aretz. They sat on something which was next to the ground. Mikan, from here we derive, shayu yeshenim al gabi mitos kufos, that by Avelus they would sleep on beds which were turned over. So they would be low down to the ground. Bar Kapara Omar, that's why we said, just to expand that a little bit, they have to turn them over to make them low down the ground because the legs were fixed. That's why if the legs are removable, all you have to do is remove the legs. But where the legs are not removable, in order to get the bed down low to the ground, you have to turn it over on its back. Okay? Says more further, and now we have a little bit of a logic for this, or a gadita about this. Says more, Bar Kapora says that Hashem comes to the Oval and says, Ikuni nachas tova, had one good image, a tzelem Elokim, li besog beischa, I had in your house, the house where the person just died, and where the Avelim was sitting Shiva. The Garamtani Kofa, you caused me this stupid. In other words, I had to take away because the Jewish people or the world is sinning. Since I had to cause it to stoop down low to the ground, you stoop down your bed and sit low down to the ground as well. Okay, and so there's a relationship. The dead person is lowered down into a grave into the ground. We sit closer to the ground as a sign of empathy, as a sign of sympathy. Says the Gemara, Bista Mafkin Lishno, somebody had. There are those who darshan the language of Kfiyas Hamita differently. They said v'yichbeh, it's that which you should. It's not to lower it, but it's kafeh asarsur, like the agent of Beis Din smites, beats the people who don't listen to the court order. He's kofeh them achiyoma rotzani. He beats them until they agree to the court order. So too here we say that the person who is an aveilus, he beats his bed down so it's in the further towards the ground. Rabbi Yonah and Rabbi Yossi Tarvayin, they both said b'shem and Lakish, why do you sleep in a bed which is low down to the ground, overturned? Shenor balayin, or you should wake up at night, v'nizkar shu avel, and remember that you're an avel. Says the Gemara. That means, say the Mefarshim, I should say. That means that if you wake up in the middle of the night, you remember that you're an avelus, and not do things that you're not supposed to do, such as, I guess, have relations with your wife, or bathe, or all sorts of other things. So we want you, if you wake in the middle of the night, to remember you're an avelus. How to remember that? By making you sleep on an overturned bed. The other one said, not only that, since you're sleeping in an overturned bed, you're uncomfortable. Who know it balayla? You're going to wake up in the middle of the night, and you remember novel. It's not only do we want you to, if you wake up to remember your novel, we want you to wake up and remember your novellas. That's also part of the novellas.
So why don't they want us to remember that now?
It's not clear. Probably just because our beds are not constructed the same way.
We could still sleep on them.
But our mattresses are comfortable anyway.
But we're not supposed to be.
They didn't require us not to sleep on a mattress. So that's why, because it's not so much an issue of suffering. It's an issue of empathy when being down low to the ground, or remembering that you're not available. So our mattresses are so comfortable that it's hard to...
i.e. that we don't sleep on the pillow.
What?
i.e. that we don't sleep on the pillow, we sleep on the bed.
That's usually by Tisha B'Av, not so much by Avelus. It's not as recalled by Tisha B'Av, it's supposed to have tsar on the korban.
Right.
By Avelus, it's more any concept of empathy, the Yerushalmi is saying. No, it's not part of the requirements. No. Kfiyas Hamita is not the same thing as take away your pillow. It's to remind you that you're No, it's not inherent in it. No, it's not inherent in it.
If you put it on the floor, you wouldn't be wrong in putting it.
No, you wouldn't be wrong. It's just not required.
Right.
Okay, it says more Avel Kozman Shemesa Mutal Farah. If an Avel, as long as he had buried the dead body, the Avel is with him in the house. Ochel should not eat in that house. Should eat it by a friend's house. If he has no friends by which to eat, should eat in another house. If you have no other house which to eat, it's a mechitza, you can make a mechitza in your house, and eat in the same room. If you can't make a mechitza in front of the dead body, you turn around and you face the wall. You sit, but you don't recline. You shouldn't eat all that you want to eat. Not drink all that you want to drink, because how can you haven't yet buried your dead body? It's not right. It's forbidden to eat meat. Not allowed to drink wine. If he can't join a zimun. If he makes brachas, and oinen is not supposed to make any brachas, because if he's parted from all mitzvahs until his dead body is buried. Therefore, if others make a bracha, it doesn't answer after them amen either. This is only true b'chol on a weekday. because he can bury his dead body. Avo b'Shabbos, when he can't bury the dead anyway, Meisa v'oichel, he can recline and eat. V'oichel basar, he can eat meat, v'shois yain, and drink wine. V'oichel kol tzarka, he eats all he wants. V'shos kol tzarka, and drinks all he wants. U'mazami lo, he joins zimun. V'im and if he makes a bracha, only machrav amen. We answer after amen. V'achem shebirchun, if others make a bracha, only achrei amen, he answers amen after them. I remember Shigam said not only that. Holy the title is once I allowed him all this stuff, chivu b'shar kol mitzvah shel Torah. He has to do all other mitzvahs. In other words, the Noyan is exempt from mitzvahs on weekdays, but not on Shabbos. Why? If I allowed him to eat and drink, which is temporal life, kosher chayilom, certainly he has to engage in mitzvahs and go to shul and daven and all that kind of stuff. All of Shabbos and Yom. Rabbi Yehuda said with Shem Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, halakha Rishon Gamliel, that on Shabbos and Noyan is chayv in all mitzvahs. Now, Nimsar l'Rabim. Once the mesas begin over to the masses, meaning the people in charge of burial, oichel basar v'shois yain. He can drink more meat, eat meat and drink wine. And Nimsar K'tavi, once it came over to pallbearers, literally shoulder porters, Commissioner Saram, as if he's given over to the Chevra Kadisha. And that's why, once the mace is on a plane going to Eretz Yisrael, the people who are not going with the mace already have all the halachos of Shiva, they're not owning him anymore. Only the person who continues to travel with the mace remains an owning. The people who stay behind, they begin their avelus immediately. Okay? Because again, once they gave over the mace to whoever is going to involve themselves in the actual burial, the Chevra Kadisha or Elal or whoever, who transporters also as well, then that's considered already to be enough that the Avelus begins. It's not talking about Shabbos, it's talking about weekdays.
No, but on Shabbos there's no even.
On Shabbos there's no Avelus anyway.
For nobody.
For anyone. No Aninus for anybody anyway. Says the Gemara, Kadamach Rabbi Yasa, when Rabbi Yasa died, Kavar Rabbi Chia Barva, Rabbi Chia Barva was his student, accepted by himself Avelov, he accepted by himself to mourn him. However, and Echlum Bas of Ashkin Chamor. But since he wasn't an Onen, an Onen can only be a relative. Even though he accepted upon himself to be an Ovel, he's not an Onen. So therefore, even before the mace was buried, even for his Rebbe, Rabbi Yasa was buried, so Rabbi Chia Barva was already eating meat and drinking wine. So too, Kadamach Rabbi Chia Barabba. When Rabbi Chia Barabba died, Kavar Shmur Yitzchak was his student, accepted by himself Avel, accepted by himself mourning. V'achli Basar Vashki Chamer. But already, he didn't accept, there was no Aninus, and therefore he ate, made, and drank wine. However, Kadamach Rav Shmuel Rav Yitzchak died. Then, Kavar Rabbi Zir Avela, Rabbi Zir accepted Avelus, V'achli Tapuchin. And before the mace was buried, he only ate lentils. Meimar said, Kamadu Minaga. Like the Onanim have the minhag, even though he wasn't strictly an Onan, because only his Rebbe, not his relative, but he decided to be Machmir. And like the Onanim are forbidden to eat meat and drink wine, he also didn't eat meat and drink wine, he only ate lentils. Rabbi Zeir Midmach. Rabbi Zeir himself was dying. We're going down generation to generation, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that. Rabbi Yasi, Rabbi Chia Barabba was sitting in Shiva for him. Chia Barabba, Shmuel Yitzchak was sitting for Shiva for him. Shmuel Yitzchak, Rabbi Zira was sitting Shiva for him. Now Rabbi Zira's dying. Pakid, he commanded, Umar, and he said, now the next line has so many different interpretations. I want to give you my interpretation, but then I'll give you another couple of interpretations. Just goes on to the next Amun. So I'll give out Chav Gimel Amrav. But I want Chav Gimel Amrav back from you. Don't trust you guys. Says the Gemara. He said, "Lo takamal yom adein avela." Don't accept by yourself today avelus ulamacha mizrachaya, and tomorrow to eat, drink, and make merry. In other words, he said, this is my interpretation. He said, if you're going to accept upon me avelus because you're my talmidim, fine, but all 7 days. Not today to make avelus and tomorrow to make ois avelus. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is the exact opposite. Another interpretation given by the Farshim is that don't be accepted by yourselves one day avelus, but not the next day mizrachaya, meaning a sudas havra. In other words, don't accept the next 20 days. Do one day avelus, and the next day don't make the avelus of the suda of avelim. On the contrary, the next day you should be able to eat and drink in a regular fashion. So according to this interpretation, exact opposite. was saying to the students, only keep one day Avelus for me, not more than one day. So we have two diametrically opposed pshatim here. One pshat is don't eat today and tomorrow feast, but accept all 7 days Avelus. The interpretation is don't eat today and tomorrow also eat. Don't be Avel today and tomorrow also keep the meals of Avelus, but rather only keep Avelus for one day, not more than one day over me when I die. Okay? Rabbi Yitzchak Braid, last meister for today, we're just going to get to that. Rabbi Zira. Rabbi Yitzchak Braid the Rav have a kesuva. So anyway, as difficult as this line, they say there's the word have is a mistake. Yitzchak Braid Rav kesuva means the sofer. He used to write stuff. He was a kosei. Matzei, so he was sitting shiva. It's literally an accident befell. He was sitting shiva. One like Rabbi, and they came into him, Rabbi Mana and Rabbi Yudan. V'hava chamer taf. And Mana and Rabbi Yudan came to console him. They brought some good wine. Vishtun sakin. They drank a lot of it. V'gachkin, and they started laughing. L'machar asum bayin l'me'al gabei. So the next day, Rabbi Mana and Rabbi Yudan, they had such a good time the day before. They wanted to come again. Be Menachem Ovel again. So the rabbi said, nah. This is what a person does to his friend. This is what you do to an Ovel. The only thing missing yesterday is that you didn't get up and dance. In other words, it was so frivolous and unbecoming behavior, we can't let you come back today to be Menachem Ovel the same way. Stay away today. So the moral of the story is that you don't bring good wine to an oven, even though oven's allowed to drink wine. You don't bring good wine because not the cheap stuff either, and the cheap stuff also makes you shicker, and then because then the behavior might become unbecoming. Absolutely, oven's allowed to drink wine and eat meat, except for Aninas, he's allowed to do so. Okay, we'll stop here for tonight. Give me back the Chav Kimball round, please.